So that's kind of so there's a background. I mean, like what we took about an hour for that.
um, an hour and 6 minutes. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the background, talking about kind of group versus solo content. So now we can kind of talk a little bit about this concept of Tankxiety, which is arguably the topic, the thesis of this. Um, Kind of like I said, Tankxiety I think a lot of Tankxiety comes from the like what I was talking about, kind of this jarring change between what the game requires. When the game kind of requires group content, when it's kind of normally a solo game. And so like you have people that who may like the play style of like a tank type character in open world content, but then are a little bit less than thrilled with it when they have to kind of like do this type of thing in a group setting.
Yeah, it's like that when I went back to play WoW. I fell
Right,
in love with Tank Demon Hunter, but like playing it in groups, I was just like, meh.
right. And so like in a lot of games, kind of like the tank is basically kind of the anchor of the. Like I said, the kind of the beginning, like they tend to set the pace. They're the ones that have to kind of be out in the front, so they can basically pull monsters before other people pull monsters. Um, and like this kind of like so there's a bit of reliance and even like a bit of expectation of leadership, and this can be a super stressful thing for people. Like who really kind of don't want it. I mean, they may like the tank gameplay and whatnot, but I think a lot of the anxiety comes from this idea of them having to be a leader to set the pace to kind of control things. Um,
They have to basically be aware of everything that's happening.
right, because like if your healer is basically is low on mana and you pull, well, you should not have run off and pull. You should have waited for the healer to get more mana back.
And they
You
have to
know,
pay attention to the aggro of the DPS to make sure if the DPS are attacking something that they're not focusing on, then they have to make sure to snap that aggro.
right. And so like there's just a lot of like, and like a really bad tank may basically kind of hinder the whole group. Like whereas like a bad DPS, well, things die slower, but like that may not have its noticeable effect as, oh, I can't keep aggro, or oh, I don't know how to use my cooldown, so I take too much damage for the healer to heal or whatnot. And so they also then if you die, then the monsters go and rampage on the rest of the group, and you know that kind of like reflects poorly on you. Um, yeah, and so and you also have to kind of deal with like other people who may not have the same group goals as you. Um, like one of the things that one of the things that always kind of frustrates every tank is basically when other people kind of pull, basically them saying you suck at your job of controlling the pace. I think we should go faster. And
Mm-hmm.
so it just kind of adds to the stress and anxiety that now all of a sudden you have to not only do all the things that you have to do you normally have to do with a tank, but now you're handicapped because now you have to fight with aggro with someone else. um and that that can just be like that just kind of adds to frustration. I think another big thing is like no fallback, because there's only one tank per group for the majority of content, even like even in larger group content. um the full party stuff, like there's a the party sizes are 4 in Final Fantasy 14, and it can go up to 8 for full party stuff. But like for full party stuff, for the 8 people, they'll add another healer and more DPS, but you usually only have the one tank still.
That's for the 24-man dungeons.
Yeah.
You'll have one tank per group, and then you have 3 groups. But for like
Right.
the primals, you have 2 tanks.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but like but still, like like a lot of times, especially when you start getting to the harder content too, it's like like you're either main tank or off tank, and you have very specific things you have to do. Like but like for a healer, like if somebody, if or even DPS, if somebody's kind of slacking off, other people can pick up the slack easier than if the main tank is doing something, and the off tank kind of the off tank's already doing off tank stuff, and not necessarily able to kind of step in and and help the main tank, kind of like a healer can help each other. And so like I think that kind of gives a lot more kind of anxiety.
Because there's no fallback, basically.
Right. Yeah, because like yeah, and like the 24-man stuff, like you said, there's 3 tanks in the whole group, but generally each tank has to do their own thing. You know, like for a lot of the bosses, like one will be the main tank, the other will be kind of off tanks. But like for a lot of the other stuff, or even like even for some stages during the boss fight, you as a tank have to go off and tank this one thing so that your party's not getting splattered. And so now you have to kind of juggle this. Okay, well I'm doing damage now as the off tank, and oh shit, now we have this transition. I have to pay attention, and if I'm not Johnny on the spot, then everybody else, then my group suffers, and there's nobody else that basically can potentially step in and go, oh, don't worry, I got this instead.
Yeah, and speaking as a healer main for now, I'll always be a healer main, but like running let's say the 24-man raids, for example, if one of the DPS dies, I'm like, okay, get your ass back up. If one of the tanks if my co-healer dies, I go, oh fuck. If the tank dies, I go, oh, double fuck.
Right. Well, that sucks.
Like, panic mode engaged.
Right. And so like you just have all this whole pressure on certain roles. I think you get some of that with healer, but like I think it's a little bit less because like when you have 2 healers in the group, one healer can kind of pick up for the other one a lot easier. And even things like reses, like like we have a couple of classes that can do combat reses now, so that can basically kind of take some of the pressure off the healer. But like there is no class that can basically go and tank something for any significant amount of time.
No, they took it away. It used to be ninja.
Right. Well, I mean, Black Mage tank is best tank, but one time on Alexander 12, I tanked the last 30 seconds of it as a Black Mage because the tanks died.
Nice.
Yeah, and they basically, and then like it was just a sliver of health left. So most of the healers basically just started pouring heals into me. I threw up mana wall and basically we went. It was a glorious 30 seconds for my character, but it's not something you can rely on.
In a Realm Reborn, I had a similar experience. We were doing Titan Extreme, and this is how I met Mick. I've talked about Mick before.
Yeah.
We're in the same guild, but I was new to the guild, and the entire group wiped on Titan Extreme except for me and Mick, and I was on Scholar, I think, and we got to Super Bomb phase, and we couldn't down any of the bombs. It was just 2 of us, and we're just like, no, we refuse to die. So I was on my Scholar, so I suck cord, I Adloquinned myself. Put up all the shields and Fey defense, and then he apostasised me, and I managed to survive Super Bomb with like 10 health.
Nice.
It was just like, okay, I'm good, and then we both jumped off the platform and reset.
Nice.
But and then we became friends.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, again, that kind of goes back to the bonus of group content. It's like, yeah, you kind of have that. You kind of have that
personal storytelling there.
Right. But that's something that you only get with group content like that. The jar kind of makes an interesting comment. The tank is a leadership choke point. Somebody else can lead, but the tank has to agree. And I think the problem with that though is that if the tank is not the leader, like then you get that inefficiency I was talking about, where somebody else makes a decision, has to confer with the tank has to agree, and then you go along with that. When you have that achiever focus in games, that's when you kind of really have to focus on that aspect.
And when you have a hesitant tank, that is extremely frustrating for a healer, for example.
Right. Well, I mean, you kind of have that's where you kind of get different. It's like kind of the go, era of a World of Warcraft, tanking where mentality, because people want to get through the dungeon as fast as possible because they want the experience from it. Um, there's no time for learning, no time for hesitation. In these people's minds, and that kind of like builds. That can potentially build up a lot of anxiety. Because one of my another MMO developer, a guy Jonathan Barron, who basically wrote some great articles, but he has this example he basically talked about early in my career, talking about MMOs, kind of stuck with me. It's like MMOs, you can imagine like trying to learn to play football as a novice, and you're on a professional team surrounded by fans, a stadium full of fans of professional football. Like this is basically like this is what causes Tankxiety, where you're this novice trying to learn, and everybody else feels like an expert. And all of a sudden, you're the person fucking up. You're the person holding back. You're the person that is doing everything wrong. And especially when you start getting people that just aren't as generous and considerate, it can just feel really really stressful and frustrating.
Oh yeah, the whole basis of Tankxiety is the fear of disappointing your group.
I'd say it's less disappointing and basically just more letting them down, like not
Yeah.
make
Sorry, yeah,
like
I was using disappointment as synonymous with letting down.
right. I think it's slightly different. I mean, you disappoint me, but you don't often let me down.
Don't worry, I disappoint myself. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I know how your parents feel. Oh, you probably let them down too, don't you?
Hey, you promised you wouldn't talk about that on this.
Oh yeah. Well, just like your parents, I lied to you too.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to actually edit this video now.
No.
I just had a sad.
Take out the crying. Yeah.
I'm getting Discord messages now.
Oh, getting a comfort.
Anyways, we were doing this podcast.
Right. Oh yeah, back on track. So basically.